Hey guys, I'm Quinn and I'm merchandising coordinator here at Right Stuf, and we are talking about spooktacular anime and manga. And even though it's not really my genre to go to, I do have a couple recommendations that I really liked, mostly because they aren't your typical horror movies. Disclaimer, I am that friend that will make fun of movies and yell at the characters for running into a shed when the killer clearly saw them run in there. Why did they go in there? I will ruin the movie for you. And with that being said, I have to talk about Shibuya Goldfish because it is so absurd that it transcends the horror genre, mainly because I can't keep a straight face, even though the characters are facing life and death situations, and there are giant goldfish that are eating people. And kudos to the author because they got the movement of the fish down spot on. Their behaviors are very natural, outside of the fact that they're eating humans, of course, and they're floating in the air, but they're swimming in the air. Just the anatomy of the fish and how they move and what they do is really intriguing. And because of the absurdity of it, I always had to laugh while people were running for their lives with exceedingly terrorized faces. And it's over the top, it's crazy. It is horror, it's got a lot of blood, it's got a lot of gore, it's got a lot of bites taken out of people. If you're thinking Attack on Titan relevance here, yeah, it's like that with the Titans, except they're goldfish. So in this story, of course, they're running from the goldfish that come in many shapes and sizes and terrorize them. The main guy meets up with a group of survivors, and one of them happens to be an up-and-coming pop idol, and they kind of form this bond of we're experiencing this together and we're supporting each other. So you've got some character development going on in the middle of all this crazy, and it pretty much sticks to the regular storyline of we find a group of survivors, don't get attached to them, oh, there they go. So you've got people getting sacrificed and eaten by giant goldfish. And it's like they're in a giant fishbowl in Shibuya. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. I've only read the first volume, but I am going to read more of it. It's just too absurd. So there's one recommendation for you. The other one that I would recommend more because it's atmospheric and kind of just sticks with you is called The Empire of Corpses. When I finished watching this, it's just a movie, but it kind of just hung out in my mind and made me question humanity because it's set in similar to a steampunk world, but not quite. And the whole point is that they have people raising the dead, but these corpses are kind of their indentured servants. They don't respond, they don't have the ability to speak, they just kind of do what they're told. And Watson, who is the main guy, him and his friend were researching raising corpses and getting them to work and seeing if the soul actually is still attached or if it is just the bodies that are walking around. And his friend becomes ill and he ends up kind of experimenting with him based on his wishes. So they've kind of got this cue system that he's trying to figure out if his friend's soul really is back in the body or not. And they go on a journey and you learn more about what's going on in this world, the world building. And it is like, it's not the best story in the world. Like I didn't walk away from it going, oh my gosh, that was so good. But I walked away from it and then it wouldn't leave me alone. Like it kept hanging out in my head. So I would recommend The Empire of Corpses, not just because of the lingering, questionable humanitarian problems that are there, but also because of the artwork. It is very, very good eye candy. It's a very pretty film to watch. It's very moody. It's a great low-key, kind of solid tension throughout the whole movie watch. So I would recommend The Empire of Corpses and Shibuya Goldfish for a completely different alternative version weirdness factor.
Hi guys, my name is Kelly and I am in the marketing department, and my two horror recommendations for anime are Promised Neverland and Parasite. So just in case you haven't watched the Watch It Wednesday with me featuring Parasite, Parasite is an anime about parasites that come from space and infect people's bodies. It is something that is called body horror. It is very gruesome, graphic, very scary, but also very philosophical, and it is pretty short. You can get it watched an entire weekend, so that is something I definitely recommend. It will definitely give you nightmares. My other recommendation is Promised Neverland. At the surface, it kind of appears like Alice in Wonderland. However, In the first episode, it does take an extremely dark turn from what you think it is or what it appears to be on the surface, and that's what makes it really scary, the plot twist. I would recommend it. The characters are really good. The things that make it scary are really, really scary. It does have similar themes to Parasites, and it does have a good amount of parallels to Parasite. So if you do enjoy Parasite, you would most likely enjoy Promised Neverland.
Hello everybody, I'm Jennifer. I'm part of the merchandising team here at Right Stuf. So for those of you that don't know, I recently made a blog post about the top 10 horror manga to read this season. One of those titles is Higurashi, which is what I'm currently watching this Halloween season. I'm watching the new one. I watched the old one a long time ago and basically forgot what happened, and I always wanted to rewatch it, and now I can. I kind of do like the new animation. It's kind of like, it's pretty nice. I do like the older one too. I like how the older one seems so much more scary. For those of you that don't know, Higurashi is about a cursed town. The main character guy is starting to find out all these dark secrets. He finds out about a murder and he's somewhat investigating it. And the more he investigates it, the more things happen. The more like he realizes like, who do I trust? Like all these crazy things start happening to him. And it's a really fun journey, and I love Higurashi so much. It's very dark, it's very graphic, and definitely check out the new one this season, which is like kind of like a reanimation of it. I think they're going to include more, but I'm not for sure. So my blog posts, I wanted to include manga that I thought were genuinely very scary. I wanted to stay away from Junji Ito titles because I know majority of people, when they think of horror manga, they think of his works. I did feature him at the bottom, kind of like a get to know him, some titles you should check out. So the first one you should definitely check out is Mieruko-Chan, which is a new release from Yen Press that is really scary. It's about a girl that can see these demon monsters, and they're very grotesque, and she can see them, and they always they see her staring, and she has to pretend not to see them. She doesn't want them to notice her. She's scared for her life, and it's basically about her day-to-day life, trying to survive, trying to pretend and fake that she can't see them. And you wonder how long she's going to do this for, until she finally messes up, or it's very, I loved it. I loved the first chapter. It's honestly one of my favorite, and that's why I put it first on the list, because it amazed me by how good it was. Another title I included in it was Corpse Party. I'm pretty sure not many people knew this one had a manga. Most people know it for the game. It also has an anime, which is also very scary, and I love the anime. It's one of my favorite horror anime. Another anime that I love is Shiki, which is it's similar to Higurashi, so if you're looking for something like that, definitely check that one out. It's basically the same concept, a small town, something strange is going on, people are dying. This one has to do with vampires pretty much. It's very scary, check it out. So if you're not looking for a horror anime this season, I highly recommend watching Soul Eater. I feel like that's the perfect one to watch around Halloween time because it's got that spooky theme, but it's not necessarily horror. I've seen Soul Eater 5 times, and I think this is going to be the year I don't watch it. So definitely check all those anime out. I highly recommend them. They're my favorites. Definitely check the blog post out. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, scared me, I didn't see you there. My recommendation for spooky titles this holiday season is Tokyo Ghoul. One of my favorites is it follows Ken Kaneki when he has a horrible accident and ends up getting organ transplants from a ghoul. It ends up making Kaneki a half ghoul, half human, and he has to try to find out which world he actually belongs to now. It's kind of a slow burn at the beginning of season 1, but it has a really good payoff with a lot of spookiness that you'll like during this holiday season. Fade to black.
Hi, my name's Chris. A show I would recommend during Halloween, or manga if you prefer, is Death Note, which is one of my all-time favorites. I have the whole series of the anime, as well as all of the manga. I also have the live-action Death Note movies. That is the Japanese versions, not the awful Netflix Americanized version, which you should definitely avoid like the plague. It does have horror elements to it, but I wouldn't say it's very scary. I just think, you know, of course, some of the character designs are creepy, like Ryuk, the Shinigami, or the God of Death, that actually owns the Death Note that he drops into the earth for Light to find, and Light is then able to write down names and kill people using it, mostly focusing on criminals at first. But as you know, it gets a lot more complicated than that. You also have Rem, who is another Shinigami in there as well. So they do have that kind of creepy horror vibe, even though I wouldn't strictly call it a horror series. Again, I say there's a lot of mystery in it, with L, one of my favorite characters from anime of all time, is actually trying to find out who Kira is, the killer that is killing criminals across the world, and how he's doing it. So there's a lot of cat and mouse game going on between Light and L in the series, which makes for a really interesting and engaging story altogether. I guess I would also just say, if you haven't seen the live action versions, I'm actually watching those during the Halloween season. They're very well done, I would say. If you don't have time to watch the entire series or read the entire manga at this point, just devote yourself to the 2-part movie for Death Note, or there's also a spin-off movie as well. Again, just the Japanese versions, not the one on Netflix. I would say that the live action versions, I actually preferred the ending to those over the anime and manga itself. If you would like, give that one a try. It's a little bit older, I think the early 2000s, and the CGI of the Shinigami kind of sticks out a bit, but I do think they did a pretty good job for the time, of course. Overall, I'd say just if you haven't experienced anything Death Note, it's definitely something that you should get into. It's not very long as far as anime or manga go. And of course, watch those live action movies. If you are a fan of the series especially and haven't seen those, I would definitely recommend giving them a shot. Have a happy Halloween.